Hello everyone. Today's lecture is about Homo erectus. Earlier we have discussed about Australopithecus. Once again, I like to make it very clear. In that lecture we had a discussion about the geological time scale. We have discussed about Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, then Cambrian, Precambrian, Ordovician, Silurian. I would like to make it very clear there is no need to read that, and that is only for your understanding. That is only to make you understand that particular term, the Plio-Pleistocene. This what do you mean by this Plio-Pleistocene hominids? And we should also have some idea about the Pleistocene glaciation. We discussed it earlier. Gunz, Mindel, Reis, Worm, that four glaciation. It is this large scale fluctuation in the climate and the environment which resulted in the evolution of organisms, and even we human beings came to earth largely because of these climatic fluctuations. Okay, so please once again I will tell you there is no need for you to read that geological time scale. That is only to make you understand what is the meaning of Plio-Pleistocene hominids. Okay, so this Homo erectus, right, this roughly lived between 2 to 0.12 million years ago. In the notes I have mentioned as 1.6 actually, but later a few fossils from Africa were discovered which dates back to 1.9 million years ago. So roughly you need to know Homo erectus, right, it existed between 2 to 0.1 million years ago. That is roughly between 20 lakh years to 1 lakh year ago. Okay, 1 lakh 20,000 years ago. Homo erectus survived on earth. And we human beings, we have descended from this Homo erectus. The Homo erectus, see, this is Homo erectus. We also belong to the same genus, Homo. That means this particular species, right, is placed very close to human beings. Very, very close to human beings. So before going into the details, let us start our discussion from the discovery of Homo erectus. So in this lecture, let us discuss about the discovery of the Homo erectus, its distribution, its physical characteristics, in which we will discuss about the human-like characteristics as well as the ape-like or primitive simian characteristics of Homo erectus. And finally, we will also discuss about the phylogenetic position of Homo erectus. Discovery. Eugene Du Bois. He was a Dutchman. He was posted there in Indonesia. We call it as British East Indies. He was posted there in Indonesia in the Dutch army. He was serving there in Sumatra, Java, this region. And once when he retired from his military service, he took to paleoanthropology. He was in search of the so-called missing link. By missing link, now he referred to our human ancestors from whom we have evolved. From whom we have evolved. So from Sumatra, I hope you should be comfortable with Sumatra, Java, etc. Right? India, Myanmar, part of Malaysia. Here lies the important island, Sumatra. And the next island is Java, after which lies the very famous island Bali. What is Bali famous for? Bali known for? Bali is the resort island of Indonesia. Bali is known for all the recreational activities. And in fact, Bali is that island in which Hindus are majority. So from Sumatra he shifted to Java. It is in Java, right, he discovered a few very interesting fossils. But before that, he faced a number of difficulties. First, what he did, he recruited some local people to work with him. And he was working with the local people. Suddenly, what happened? Tropical area, right? People were infested by malaria. Even he got the infection. So, he was forced to leave Java. He went back to Europe. He got himself cured. He came back and he continued his work. Second time what happened, the cave in which he was working, right, that cave collapsed. In that incident, even few of his workers died and that was a miraculous escape for him. Somehow he managed to escape, and third time, it was sure death for him. One tiger came just in front of him. God saved him the third time also. And finally, he managed to find the very important fossil at a place called as Trinil, near the Solo River of Java. So here, right, here discovered few fragments of skull, lower jaw, teeth, as well as one femur. I think, guys, by now you should be comfortable with the term femur. This refers to the thigh bone, right? Bone in the thigh region. This is the single largest bone in our body. So this femur which he discovered, right, is very famously called as Trinil femur. So what happened that this femur, right, he discovered it from a place which lies some 10 meters away from where he had discovered the other fossils. I told you right earlier, he discovered part of cranium, okay, part of lower jaw, teeth, molars, etc. And this femur bone, right, was found some 10 meters away from this place. Many expressed doubt over the Ternil femur, because it was the time when the great Fildown forgery was exposed. What is this Fildown forgery? There was one anthropologist by name Charles Dawson. Once he discovered one fossil and he termed that as a very important missing link. In fact, that was a celebrated discovery, and Charles Dawson, right, he became a hero in among the anthropologists in a matter of time. But when he discovered that fossil, our Australopithecus were not so comfortable with the absolute dating techniques. His bad luck in a short span of time, once when our anthropologists perfected the techniques in radiocarbon dating. C14, radiocarbon dating. They dated the fossil discovered by Charles Dawson. They have found that the skull belongs to that of a primitive ape, and but the jaw, right, is a very recent one that was a human jaw, which he managed to fit into that particular fossil to show or to make it look like a fossilized missing link. And this was a very big forgery which was unearthed in anthropology. Similarly, anthropologists also expressed doubt over the trenil femur. This really irked Eugene Du Bois because we only know the hardships which he had faced to discover this fossil. Earlier, he had named this fossil as Pithecanthropus erectus. Pithecanthropus erectus. So literally Pithecanthropus erectus means a gigantic erect walking ape. This is the meaning. Gigantic erect walking ape. Pithecanthropus erectus. Later, right, he concealed all his findings in a box, and after a very long time only, anthropologists managed to access the fossils discovered by Eugene Du Bois. Eugene Du Bois. So this Pithecanthropus erectus, which he named, it is Eugene Du Bois who named this fossil as Pithecanthropus erectus. So Pithecanthropus erectus means a gigantic erect walking ape. So he is famously called as Java man. This particular fossil, not our Eugene Du Bois, okay? This fossil, right, is called as Java man. Then there was one very famous discovery from China at a place called as roughly between 1912 to 1929, excavations were going on. In this process, right, one particular fossil was discovered. Zaukudian literally means dragon bone hill. It is W.C. Fay. He was then the director of Archaeological Survey of China. It is he who discovered the very famous fossil at Zaukudia. It is near Beijing. Beijing in China. And even right, it was not an ordinary task for him. He was working under freezing conditions in a cave, carrying a lamp in one hand and an axe and a hammer in another hand. With all the discoveries, with all the difficulties, he managed to find a fossil. And that particular fossil, right, when he discovered, it was partly embedded in a limestone. So limestone. Part of the fossil, right, was there inside the limestone. He took this fossil to Davidson Black, the very famous Canadian anthropologist, paleo anthropologist he is. It is D. Black, right, who managed to extract this fossil out of this limestone. It is not, we cannot do this mechanically. We need to treat that with lot of chemicals. This chemical treatment over time, right, is capable of releasing that fossil, or the fossil can chemically separate from the limestone, so that there will be no damage on the surface. So mechanically, if you do that right, that surface may get disturbed. So to prevent that, what they used to do, our paleoanthropologist will treat the fossil on the limestone with some chemicals. So chemically, right, that limestone will detach from the bone fragments, from the fossil fragments. So D. Black named this fossil as Sinanthropus pekinensis. Sinanthropus pekinensis. Very famously was called as a Peking man. Later, Mayer studied this fossil. And one important thing, see what, when D. Black, right, he was just studying the fossil. Meanwhile, there were some disturbing events there in China. Japan started invading China. The first Japanese aggression. There were two Japanese aggression in 10 years. And that was so brutally a war. And the brutality of this war, right, was exposed by a few photojournalists. There was one photograph taken by one photographer showing one Japanese soldier walking in the streets of Beijing, holding two Chinese soldiers' beheaded head in his hand as a trophy, and he will be walking in the street. So when the war started, what Davidson Black did, he managed to make a number of molds. And he took that mold with him, and he also photographed it detailing. But what he did, he gave that fossil to one American Marine there. Even the American Marines, right, because of the Japanese war, they were vacating the place and they were about to leave to United States. So he gave that fossil to that Marine, and he asked him, see, I'm leaving to Canada. I'll be somewhere in Toronto only. See, when you come back, right, please make it sure this is such an important fossil. You bring this carefully. Bring this carefully. After that, we do not know what exactly happened to that fossil. It went missing. Nobody heard about that fossil after that. We do not know whether that marine returned back to USA or not, or whether he thrown it in the sea or not. No idea. But good, at least Davidson managed to make some mold out of that fossil. And that mold was studied later by Mayer. And Mayer, he found that there are number of similarities between human beings and this fossil. And he rightly included this fossil under the genus Homo. He found there are number of similarities between this and human beings. So this should be a perfect hominid. This should be a perfect hominid. What do you mean by hominid? We human beings belong to the family Hominidae. So that means by terming it as a hominid, he brings this Homo into our family. That means they are certainly our human ancestors. Later it was a Butner Janusz who named this fossil correctly as Homo erectus. So the discovery of Homo erectus is slightly important. The contributions of Eugene Du Bois, followed by W.C. Pei, And further in Beijing, as I told you, number of paleoanthropologists did work here, like Davidson Black, Mayer, and Butner Janusz. In India, Arun Sonakia, way back in the year 1985, Professor Arun Sonakia, he discovered one fossil in the Narmada River Valley. There is a place called as Hathnora. Hathnora near Hoshangabad in Madhya Pradesh. So this fossil, right? This fossil is some 1.4 million years old, and perfect it is Homo erectus only. But again, there is a confusion here. The cranial capacity of this particular fossil, right, is relatively larger than the other finds of the same geological period. When compared to Java man or Peking man, the cranial capacity of Narmada man was slightly larger. Maybe Indians were more brainy. So this particular fossil was named as Homo erectus narmadensis. Homo erectus narmadensis. Okay. Further, right after that, there were a number of discoveries from Africa, and the African form of Homo erectus, right, is named as Homo ergaster. Homo ergaster. So the Homo ergaster, right, we are slightly differentiating this from Homo erectus to show, because this is an African version of Homo erectus, and the African version, right, this Homo ergaster has the lowest cranial capacity among all the Homo erectus. Do you want me to explain what do you mean by cranial capacity? Cranium. Hope you remember what do you mean by cranium. So cranium refers to that particular bone, a group of bone which covers our skull. We have also discussed about a number of region in the cranium. I told you about the frontal region, parietals, occipital, and then temporal. Okay. Fine then. So by cranial capacity, indirectly we refer to the capacity of the cranium to hold a brain. So indirectly we are referring it to the size of the brain. Okay. So now let us discuss the general characteristics of Homo erectus. So are you comfortable with the discovery? So what are all the things you need to remember about the discovery of Homo erectus? First one, Eugene Du Bois and his fossil. Pithecanthropus erectus. This is also called as Java man. Correct? Then WC, he discovered this in the Solo region of Indonesia. The two in particular from a place called as Trinil. We have also discussed about Trinil femur, the controversial femur found by Eugene Du Bois. Then W.C. Pei, in the place Zhoukudian, discovered Sinanthropus pekinensis. This is Peking man. This was further studied by Davidson Black, Mayer and Butner Janusz. It is D. Black who named it as Sinanthropus pekinensis. Mayer found a number of similarities between this fossil and human beings. Okay, and so Mayer tried to place this in the genus Homo, and it is Butner Janusz who named it as Homo erectus. Later, one more great paleoanthropologist, Professor Weidenreich. He discovered a number of similar fossils in the same region after World War. During the World War, Professor Weidenreich. And do not remember the fossil discovered by Professor Arun Sonakia in the year 1985, the very famous Narmada man, Homo erectus narmadensis. So now let us discuss the physical characteristics of the Homo erectus. There are a number of advanced features of Homo erectus, that is human-like. At the same time, there are also a number of ape-like or simian, ape-like or simian characteristics. Simian, it's not Simran, okay? Simian means ape-like primitive characters. So there is an admixture of both primitive ape-like as well as modern human-like characters. But certainly this is an improvement over Australopithecus. Earlier we discussed in Australopithecus, though Australopithecus had a bipedal locomotion, that bipedal locomotion was not perfect mainly because of the absence of two muscles. Hope you remember, gluteus maximus and gluteus medius. But these muscles are well developed in Homo erectus. So Homo erectus are capable of standing straight and they can walk with comfort. Okay. See, first the cranial capacity of, now we are going to discuss the advanced characters, in which the first important thing is the cranial capacity. Cranial capacity. So, Homo erectus, right, were found distributed in the four important regions: in Africa, in Indonesia, in China, as well as in India. But the materials used by this Homo erectus, or the materials made by the Homo erectus, right, were found throughout the world, throughout Europe, Africa, and Asia. But in the other regions, right, in Europe, we couldn't find any fossils of this particular period. Okay, so the cranial capacity, right, it varies in different places. On an average, it ranges between 775 to 1421. This number 1421 is a bit important. I'll tell you why. Okay. In Africa, I told you the African form of Homo erectus is called as Homo ergaster. Homo ergaster. And the cranial capacity of Homo ergaster is the lowest among all the Homo erectus. So it is roughly somewhere between 775 to 940 cc. Then for our Java man, the cranial capacity was slightly larger. It was around 940 to 1225 cc. And for Peking man, but the highest among all was found among our Narmada man, where his cranial capacity was 1421 cc, some 21 cubic centimeters extra. And there is some, because of this extraordinary brain size, right? Many consider this to be an early form of Neanderthals or Homo sapiens. And there is one confusion about the phylogenetic status of Narmada man. That we will not discuss now. That we will discuss as a part of our discussion in paper 2, where we discuss in length about the fossils find from the Indian subcontinent, the Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus, and then this Narmada man. Now let us confine only to Homo erectus. Okay. So then the other, see this cranial capacity, see here, it's almost near to that of Homo sapiens. This cranial capacity comes very close to 1400. It comes very close to the cranial capacity of human beings. For modern Homo sapiens, for modern human beings, cranial capacity is around 1400 to 1500 cc. So then the next prominent character. Height of the cranium is more than the width of the cranium. See. This height of the cranium is more than the width of the cranium. This is a very prominent human-like characters of uh, the Homo erectus. Okay. Then foramen magnum was more centrally placed. What do you mean by foramen magnum? We have discussed that in the Australopithecus. If you say foramen, that refers to a opening in a bone. Foramen refers to a opening in a bone. So, foramen magnum means that is one opening which is found in the backside of the cranium. Remember, backside of the cranium. It is that opening through which brain continues as the spinal cord. Okay. So, in Australopithecus, we have discussed about the evolutionary significance of foramen magnum. For the primitive apes, right? For the primitive apes, foramen magnum used to be more posterior. For most of the quadrupedal apes. Quadrupedal means apes which use all the four limbs for walking, like Ramapithecus, Sivapithecus, Dryopithecus, Oreopithecus. They all used to use all the four limbs for locomotion. But we use only two legs for locomotion, right? So in the course of evolution from quadrupedal locomotion, when we got the bipedal locomotion, this foramen magnum descended slowly, gradually, and it became more centrally placed. Even for Australopithecus, the foramen magnum is more centrally placed like that of the human beings. And even for Homo erectus, the foramen magnum is more centrally located. This is an advanced feature of Homo erectus. Then the dental morphology of Homo erectus. It is almost similar to that of the human beings. It is parabolic shape, paraboline shape. Okay, and this particular feature, taurodontism, is present. Taurodontism means extension of the pulp cavity into the root of the tree. See our enamel, and then our roots. This is the pulp cavity. For primitive apes, the pulp cavity used to be like this only. But for human beings, the pulp cavity extends into the roots. You better know what will be there in the pulp. So these are regions of nerve endings. Regions of nerve endings. And whenever we get some infection here, right, in the enamel, it slowly penetrates into the pulp region. And once if that infection reaches the pulp region, once when that cavity reaches the pulp region, this pulp may get infected. And once if this pulp also get infected, then we need to go for root canal treatment. So what a dentist will do is he will extract everything, all the pulp, because once when the pulp get infected, once the pulp gets exposed, right, if we eat something cold, immediately we'll get that sensation, like that. So to prevent that, what they will do, they will extract all the pulp, they'll fill it with some chemicals, and they'll put one cap over this and they will seal it. Correct? So this extension of pulp cavity into the root, right, this is called as taurodontism. I'll show you one picture for this to show how the pulp cavity extends into the roots. See here, these are different types of taurodontism, and this is the most common one found among the human beings. See how the pulp cavity extends into the root. This is the root, this is the enamel. So the extension of earlier for the primitive apes, the pulp cavity used to be confined only here. But the extension of pulp cavity into the root, right, is one advanced feature of Homo erectus. Then diastema is absent. Apart from that, you can also write canines are not projecting. and then diastema is absent. So I told you diastema means earlier when the primitive apes, when they had quadrupedal locomotion, all these four limbs were used for grasping and supporting and locomotion. So they were forced to use their mouth and teeth for hunting and collection of fruits and nuts. So the mouth was well equipped for this purpose. So they had sharp incisors followed by a tusk-like canine. When they close the mouth in order to lock the teeth, in the lower jaw, after these incisors, there will be one gap between this incisor and the canine here. This gap is called as diastema. This gap is called as diastema. So, but what happened even for Australopithecus, when they descended down, when they become totally terrestrial, when they started walking on the ground using two legs, their forearms became free. Once when their forearms became free, I also told you one very important thing in Australopithecus, there was a greater development of the brain of the Australopithecus in the cerebrum as well as the cerebellum. And the development of brain in the cerebellum allowed Australopithecus to make fine body movements during locomotion. It allowed the greater development of brain in the cerebellum allowed even Australopithecus to use their hand for manipulation. They can make a stone. They can take a stone and they can throw it on the other animals. Okay. So once when, even for Homo erectus, once when their forearms became free, there is no need for them to use their mouth for hunting and collection. They can use their hands to do that. So once when their forearms became free, the use for the canines declined, and in the passage of time, canines became smaller, smaller and smaller, and they got confined to the teeth line. With that now, is there any need for diastema? So diastema also disappeared with the shortening of the canines. So the absence of diastema in the dental morphology of Homo erectus is a very advanced character. Then linea aspera. Linea aspera is well developed. So what do you mean by linea aspera? We have discussed earlier, right? So linea aspera is a small groove found in the backside of the femur bone. So this is a small groove in the backside of the femur bone. This provided the attachment surface for the muscles in the thigh region. So the presence of this linea aspera indicates an erect posture and bipedal locomotion. This is one advanced feature of Homo erectus. Then the zygomatic arch of is thin like human beings. So what is this zygomatic arch? This zygomatic arch, right, is a arch-shaped bone which is found here in this region. I'll show you in your picture. Wait. This particular bone, this is called a zygomatic arch. This bone, this is zygomatic bone. It is a zygomatic bone which gives this projection of the cheeks, right? This is because of the zygomatic bone. And the extension of that, this is the zygomatic arch. I told you two muscles, right? Masseter and temporalis. It gets connected beneath this zygomatic arch. Masseter and temporalis, the two muscles used for biting and chewing. Okay. Sorry, okay with the term zygomatic arch? Okay. Then now let us discuss a few prominent primitive characteristics of primitive features of Homo erectus. So the first and the foremost and very important and very prominent feature is the absence of chin. You can draw one diagram for this. If chin is present, the bone will be like this. Okay, so you can mark it as absence of chin. Chin is absent. So chin as a prominent feature is found only in Homo sapiens. From the next stage, right, from the Neanderthals, right, they were also Homo sapiens. From the Neanderthals, chin starts appearing. So the Homo erectus was the last human ancestor without having a chin. So chin is absent in Homo erectus. Then there are several mental foramen or mental foramina. Or mental foramen. So I told you, foramen means these are opening in a bone. So mental foramen means these are opening found in the lower jaw. You can see one opening here, right? This is the mental foramen of human beings. We have one opening here and another opening here. So it is through this opening only, right? Blood vessels and the nerves passes through. This opening is meant for blood vessels and nerves to pass into the jaw. So this foramen magnum, right? We just have only a pair of foramen, not foramen magnum, mental foramen. Mental foramen. We just have only two mental foramen, one here, another one here. But for Homo erectus, they have many mental foramen. This is again a very important and very prominent primitive feature found in Homo erectus. Several mental foramen. Then after that, I have drawn one diagram to show that the height of the cranium is more than the width. That is an advanced character. But for human beings, the greater width of the cranium lies above the ears. somewhere here like this. But for them, it occurs at the ear level. But for human beings, it is slightly higher than the ear level. Okay, so the widest part of the cranium is at the ear level. Again, that is one primitive feature. Then molars have divergent roots. We have discussed about molars, right? This is how our roots used to be. But for them, they have divergent roots like this. Roots of the teeth diverge. So that is again a primitive character. A primitive character of Homo erectus. Then in human beings, right, first molar is small. But for the Homo erectus, first molar is the largest. And there is one very important, again, a very prominent primitive character. See here, for us, the widest part of the mandible is at the second molar. I hope you are comfortable with the teeth now. With the teeth now. So how many teeth we have? One, two, three, four incisors. Then comes the canine. Then first molar, first premolar, second premolars. After this, molar, first molar, second molar, and the third one used to be slightly smaller and it used to curve inside for human beings. So there is a curve here. So the greatest thickness, right, of the mandible lies at the second molar. But for Homo erectus, this goes further like this, and the greatest width is at the third molar. So the incurving of the third molar, right, it doesn't happen in Homo erectus. It goes, it continues straight here. So the greatest thickness of the mandible lies in the third molar. So this is one primitive character of Homo erectus. So the thickness of the cranium, right? The thickness of this bone, it is around 7 to 10 millimeters. But for human beings, and an average, it is 5.2 millimeter. That means, see, with the course of evolution, this bone, right, became thin and tough. Thin and tough. So it used to be like a bamboo. It is fibrous. We cannot break this that easily. But it became thinner and stronger now. It became thinner and then stronger. See, Our some 20 years back when the mobile phones were becoming prominent in our country, Nokia and Sony Ericsson phones were very popular at that time. So that time one Sony Ericsson phone, right, used to be as thick as this. It used to be like a brick, and even there will be one antenna for that. So that time, right, people used to keep the phone in the pocket, and this antenna will be visible, and that was one sign of pride. But with the passage of time, phone became thinner, thinner, and thinner, and now the phones which we are using, right, these are very thin, but it is very tough, right? Thin and tough. So similarly, even in the course of evolution, what happened? The thickness of the cranium became thinner and thinner, but it became very tough. For human beings, the thickness of the cranium, right, it is around, on an average, it is around 5.2 millimeters. But for Homo erectus, this 7.5 to 10 millimeters. The thick cranium, right, is again a primitive feature of Homo erectus. Then even the X-ray study of the femur bone. You know, femur bone is our bone found in the thigh region. So the X-ray study of for this femur bone, right? It shows that the outer, if you take a cross section of the bone, so there will be two layers in the bone, and the outer layer, right, is twice as thick as the one found in the Homo sapiens. Suppose if this is the outer layer of the femur bone of Homo sapiens, for Homo erectus, it is twice as thick as twice as thick as the one found in Homo sapiens. So these are the primitive characteristics of Homo erectus. So there are half primitive characters and half human-like characters. So apart from these, Homo erectus, right, they were capable of Homo erectus, they were capable of building culture. See, in prehistory, we might have studied about lithic cultures, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Chalcolithic, etc. So what do you mean by prehistory? So we can divide our past into three. So when you study about Akbar the Great, Akbar as an emperor is a celebrated ruler in India, but not in Pakistan. Aurangzeb is not a big hero in our country, but he is a big hero in Pakistan. See here, when you study about Akbar the Great, you have Akbarnama. There are a number of other written evidences which speaks about Akbar. You study about Ashoka the Great. There are a number of Ashokan inscriptions which speaks about Ashoka. So there are written evidences which speaks about these rulers. This period is called as history. By prehistory, we refer to those period for which no written evidences are available. No written evidences are available. But we are reconstructing this history based on the material remains. So the people who lived during prehistoric period, they might have left behind a lot of materials. Their fossilized skeleton may be there. The stone tools, the bone tools which they have made may remain there. The ceramics which they have made may remain there. The dwelling pits sometimes may still exist. And reconstructing the history based on the material remains, right? That particular phase is called as a prehistory. Proto-history means that is that particular cultural phase for which some written evidence is available, but we are not in a position to decipher what exactly is written there. In India, the very famous Indus Valley civilization or the Harappan civilization is an example for proto-history. We have an Indus script, but we are totally clueless about the script. There are more than 400 symbols, and the symbols always occurs in a series. It means they have used this symbol to write something, but we are not in a position to read what exactly is written there. So this particular cultural phase is called as proto-history. So in India, Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization is a very good example for proto-history. Homo erectus, right, it lived during prehistory. You might have studied the Paleolithic culture. Paleolithic. Okay. Paleolithic means old Stone Age. In fact, the term Stone Age, right, we use it to refer to these prehistoric sites in Africa. Elsewhere in Asia and in Europe, we use the term Paleolithic. This Paleolithic period is again divided into and Upper Paleolithic, after which comes Mesolithic, Neolithic, and the prehistory continues. It is Homo erectus who contributed for the lower Paleolithic culture. It is the Homo erectus who made this lower Paleolithic culture. Lower Old Stone Age, right? It was Homo erectus who made that culture. And Neanderthals, right? The Middle Paleolithic. And our modern Homo sapiens appear only during the Upper Paleolithic. So there are a number of distinct cultural innovations which happened during this period. But all these things, right, separately we will discuss in the principles in prehistoric archaeology. So there we will discuss in length about the cultural aspect of Homo erectus. But now, I will just brief you what exactly they did. This Homo erectus, right, they managed to make stone tools. And most of the stone tools which they have made, right, the most prominent tools they have made is the Acheulean hand axe. So this stone tool was first discovered from a place called as Acheules in France. Acheules in France. And hence all the stone tools of that similar size and shape, right, were named as Acheulean hand axe. So, what this hand axe is later, right, I will show you this hand axe and we will discuss in length. This is a teardrop shaped bifacially flaked stone tool. So, Homo erectus made this stone tool and they used a number of technique to make this stone tool. So, they will keep one stone here, over which side they will keep one more stone, and using another hammer stone they used to hit it here so that the edges alone get separated. So all these tool making techniques we'll discuss in archaeology. Okay, so now just to remember Homo erectus, they made a stone tool which is called as Acheulean hand axe. Then Homo erectus, right, they also had a control over fire. All these things, even notes for this I didn't give you here because later in prehistoric archaeology we are going to discuss these things in length. Homo erectus had control over fire. So the evidence for this, right, comes from a cave in Zaukudian. This is near Beijing, right? It is here or W.C. Pei discovered Sinanthropus pekinensis, the very famous Peking man. Here in one particular cave, right, he managed to find a thick layer of ash. If something gets burned, right, you can find the ash. But a thick layer, it's a thick layer of ash. This suggests that the same place was used again and again to make fire. Again and again to make fire. So that's why we have a thick layer of ash here. No doubt it is the Homo erectus who made this. This is one to show that Homo erectus had control over fire. And there are also evidence to show that Homo erectus indulged in big game hunting. Big game hunting. That means hunting of large animals. Like elephants. So, but what is the evidence to show that these people had hunted these animals? That animals, an elephant, right, it would have died accidentally. But if there are two caves, one cave here and another one cave here, one elephant cannot die by leaving three legs in one cave and another leg in another cave. That cannot happen, right? So this is one evidence to show that these people had hunted. Apart from that, there are number of evidence in the form of stone tools. There are number of stone tools found here, and these bones were even burnt and charred. These were apparently these were the remains of a meal. So this shows that this gives an evidence that these people had at least 8 large games, but we couldn't decisively prove whether these people had hunted these animals or not. But for sure they ate the large animals like the Homo erectus. So sorry, they ate the large animals like elephants. Okay, and about religion and ritual there is one discussion. In few cave sites, right, few substances like red ochre. Red ochre is found. This is a mud-like substance which even now people use in religious rituals. And there are also some evidences to show that this Homo erectus practiced cannibalism. So once when they, what do you mean by cannibalism? Somebody eating the same species is called as cannibalism. Even now, there are number of cannibals in our country. In the world. There is one tribe by name Boro who lives in the Amazon jungles. Boro in the Amazon jungles. These people, they practice a ceremonial cannibalism. If there is a function, a religious function in their home or in their village, what they used to do, they'll capture some human beings, they will tie them to a pole, they'll roast and they will eat. There are few Australian aborigines in Australia, the primitive people in Australia. They practice cannibalism with love and affection. Once few anthropologists managed to find this practice, and what they used to do here, once when somebody becomes old and if he finds it so difficult to walk and to live, what he will do, he will call all his grandkids. Grandkids, please come here. I think I am becoming weak. I cannot live properly hereafter. Please, you cut me and you eat. And the kids also, right, will obey his order. They will cut him and they will cook and they will eat. Anthropologists, right, they asked, hey, what you are doing? He is your own grandfather and why you are killing and eating him? They said, sir, we also know that, but one thing is for sure, we do not want the earth to eat him and we prefer to keep him in our belly. That's why we eat him. And there were a few anthropologists who revealed that even the Eskimos who live in Alaska, at times they practice cannibalism, but they never accept that. So during extreme winter, when there is a severe food shortage, the eldermost person of the family, what they used to do, they used to move out of the igloo and they used to expose their body to the cold freezing climate, cold freezing weather, and they will die. Next day, the relatives, right, they'll keep searching and when they find him dead, they know why he died. It was largely because of food shortage and they'll cut and they will eat. But never they reveal such a thing and never they accept that they do that. So cannibalism is still prevalent. And there are a number of cannibals in Indonesia and some viral diseases associated with brine eating there that we will discuss later. Okay. So in Zaukunian, there was some evidence about cannibalism. There was one cranium, and in that cranium, right, that bone where that facial bones were broken, and the foramen magnum was deliberately butchered. Deliberately, it was opened, and the way in which it was opened, right, it gives a clue that these people might have practiced cannibalism. They might have ate the fellow human beings. So once if you know that they practice cannibalism, these people, right, they may practice cannibalism due to three reasons. The first reason, right, it may be for gustatory, that is for taste purpose. Maybe the human meat may be so tasty, so they might have hunted other human beings to consume. Or sometimes for survival. That is, if resources became very scarce, if resources become very scarce, and if they do not have food materials to eat, then they might have practiced cannibalism. And one more thing for which they might have practiced is for ritual purpose. For ritual purpose. So now they show there is some evidence that they have practiced cannibalism. So if they have practiced cannibalism, then 30% chances are there they might have practiced cannibalism for a ritual purpose. But now, with the available evidence, I told you about red ochre. Even red ochre, right? Even now, among the tribes in Chotanagpur Plateau, in the Central Indian tribal belt, the Bills, the Gonds, the Ho, the Warans, etc., they use this red ochre in ritual purpose. At the same time, they also apply this red ochre on their body. It's a red mud that is. They apply it on their body to protect themselves against insects. So now we do not have any material evidence to show that religion and ritual were the part of Homo erectus or the lower Paleolithic culture. We can only speculate it. See, about this lower Paleolithic culture, about the tools which they have used, about their big game hunting, about their use and control of fire, and about the cannibalism and the religion ritual, we will discuss in length when we discuss the principles in prehistoric archaeology. So now that's why I just mentioned only the 4 points as the cultural events associated with Homo erectus. Okay, and in your examination, suppose if they ask you to write about Homo erectus, there is no need to write about their cultural aspects. One and only they specifically ask you to write about the cultural aspect of Homo erectus. Then you can say the lower Paleolithic culture is associated with the Homo erectus, and these four are the very important cultural aspects. That is, number one, big game hunting and big game eating, control of fire, the stone tools they made, and cannibalism and religion and ritual. Okay. So now let us discuss the phylogenetic position of Homo erectus. There is no doubt that Homo erectus was in the line of human evolution. The Homo erectus right, there is, see, in Homo erectus, there is a blend of primitive ape-like as well as human-like characters. The human-like characters in Homo erectus are very prominent. So it is true that Homo erectus is in the line of human evolution. But there is some confusion about the Java man and the Peking man. Java man and Peking man. There are some anatomical differences, some minor differences between Java man and the Peking man. It was Professor Weidenreich who studied these fossils, who compared these fossils. After comparing these fossils, right, he managed to find one important thing. Both the fossils, right, both the fossils belong to same age. They both occupy the same level in the geological time scale. So according to him, both Java man and Peking man were Homo erectus only. There are anatomical differences, but these anatomical differences are largely due to the environmental differences in which they have lived. For example, Java man, he lived strictly in a tropical environment, while Peking man lived under a temperate condition, a very cold or temperate region. So, the minor anatomical variations between the Java man and the Peking man were due to the difference in environment in which they lived. Apart from that, there are no major differences. So, according to Professor Weidenreich, see the Professor Weidenreich, right, you need to write, when you write the phylogenetic position of Homo erectus, they will look for this name. Your examiner will look whether you have mentioned about Professor Weidenreich here, because it is he, right, who did lot of study. So earlier, Eugene Du Bois, W.C.P. D. Black, they all even discovered number of fossils. But subsequently, it is these people who did lot of study to show that yes, this is in the line of a human evolution. So finally, even Professor Weidenreich, he concludes that Homo erectus is in the line of human evolution. This Homo erectus got evolved into Neanderthal man. So Neanderthal is a region, it's a cave in, it's a region in Germany. The first fossil of Neanderthal man was discovered there in Neanderthal. So we have named that fossil as Neanderthal man. In fact, Neanderthal man is a primitive Homo sapien. But there are some prominent difference between our modern Homo sapiens and these Neanderthals. That's why, though we have classified Neanderthal as a Homo sapien, we have kept them under a separate subspecies called as Homo sapien neanderthalensis. But we are Homo sapiens sapiens. From Neanderthals came our modern Homo sapiens sapiens, trinomial nomenclature. This is genus name, this is species, and this is subspecies. So this is sufficient about Homo erectus. So keep in mind, so if they ask you to write about the general characteristics of Homo erectus, it is sufficient that if you write about the human-like and the ape-like characteristics, do not focus about the cultural aspect of Homo erectus. Okay. Also, make it sure that there are 4 important regions from where the Homo erectus fossils were discovered: from Java, from China, from India, and from Africa. So, you can see one thing very clearly. Africa and then China. Here, the lowest, and slightly it increases here, what? Cranial capacity. And it becomes more here and the maximum here. This also gives some support for out of Africa theory. That is, Homo erectus, after originating and evolving from Africa, they managed to migrate to the other parts of the world. Out of Africa theory. So later, right after organic evolution, we'll also discuss about the out of Africa theory. Okay. So this is sufficient about Homo erectus. Guys, hope you are comfortable with this topic. And about the anatomical terms, if you have any doubt, right, please ask me again and again. Please ask me any number of times. I will be so happy to guide you in that. Okay. We didn't discuss any new or any prominent new anatomical term here except the mental foramen. Mental foramen. What do you mean by mental foramen? You can also draw one diagram for a mental foramen. Make it sure when you draw Homo erectus, there should be no chin. Also make one more dot. Because for human beings, we just have only a pair of mental foramen, but for Homo erectus, there are a number of mental foramen. So you can mark it as MF, mental foramen. This is one very prominent thing which we have discussed now. And along with that, I have told you about zygomatic arch. Also take one diagram for a zygomatic arch. I told you how to draw a skull. Hope just practice it so that by the end of the course, right, we'll be in a position to draw it very easily. Okay. So, even for Homo erectus, the supraorbital ridges are prominent. I think I didn't mention this in your notes. If it is not there, please note it down. Supraorbital ridges. Ridges are prominent. So by this time you should be comfortable with the term supraorbital ridge. These are orbits and the ridge-like bone over the orbits are called the supraorbital ridge. These are prominent even for Homo erectus. So about the zygomatic arch, just draw this diagram. And you can mark this as zygomatic arch. Okay, fine then. So you can pause the video and you can draw it. So hope you are comfortable with the two apes which we have discussed Australopithecus and Homo erectus. And from here, right, we can move to the next ape, that is Neanderthals or Neanderthal man. The most important thing is Neanderthal man is a Homo sapien, and but still there are a number of differences between human beings or modern human beings and Neanderthals. So that's why we have grouped him into a separate category, that is separate subspecies. Homo sapiens neanderthalensis. Homo sapiens neanderthalensis. Okay. There are two major. So why the name Neanderthal? The first fossil of Neanderthal man, right, was discovered in a cave in Neanderthal Valley in Germany. Neanderthal near Dusseldorf in Germany. And it was found in a cave. And many anthropologists, right, they refuted, say, Neanderthal man was a caveman. Most of the time he lived in caves to protect himself against the intense cold. But after the discovery of first fossil, when it was declared that this particular Neanderthal man lived in cave, few anthropologists refused to accept that, citing one leopard attack, a leopard injury in its neck region. So, leopards, right, unlike tigers, they have one habit. If a tiger hunts a game, if a tiger hunts a prey, there itself it will eat. And the life of a tiger, right, is really very, very pathetic in the sense of it need to spend a lot of energy to hunt. And once when it hunted, right, then the other animals will come for competition. Wild dogs will come for competition. Vultures will come for competition, and it need to eat fast. But a leopard, right? Leopard have one peculiar habit. So what it will do? Generally, leopards live in tree tops, in tree branches. After hunting an animal, it carries the animal to its to the tree top where it rests. It stays there, it keep it there, and aram se slowly it keeps eating. So leopards have the habit of dragging the hunted animal to the place, to some other place to keep it and eat. So the leopard injury in the neck region, generally a leopard, right, initially, generally a tiger and leopard, it catches hold of this neck region and it breaks the jugular vein. There are two jugular veins here. It is through this vein, right, blood from the heart reaches the brain. And once if they cut this vein, right, then blood supply to the head will get disturbed and the animal may faint in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, then it will kill and eat. So the leopard injury here in the neck, right, of the man, many anthropologists suggested that some leopards might have brought this fossil here to the cave. But later, few hundred fossils were discovered from Europe, and most of the fossils were found from the cave, and the Neanderthals were cavemen. So who these Neanderthals are? They are further subdivided into progressive Neanderthal and then classical Neanderthal. So what are all the difference between them? And one very important thing which you need to remember is when you think about Neanderthal, you need to remember Sachin Tendulkar so that we can understand them easily. Neanderthals were also short statured with a good throwing arm. So about Neanderthals, let us discuss in our next primate lecture. Okay. So until then, please make it sure that you go through the Australopithecus and the Homo erectus again and again and make yourself comfortable. So once when you are comfortable in these topics, right, there are no other science topics in anthropology which are really tough like this. Okay. So until then, thank you. So tomorrow let us meet. Tomorrow let us discuss one topic in socio-cultural anthropology, that is political anthropology. Okay. So until then, thank you. Have a great day.